So next question is why are the developing countries disproportionately affected in the epidemic? So we saw in the 20th century, the epidemic is generalized especially in the sub-Saharan region. So in other districts, the epidemic is concentrated more or less to a particular population. So why is difference, between the region? So this is a graph showing the relationship between GNP per capita and then the HIV prevalence. So you can see the significant correlation, downward correlation. So what this means? What this means? Do you see?
Low capital countries related to high infectious.
Yeah, exactly. So the poorer the country, the higher the HIV prevalence. So that means people in the low-income country has a higher risk for HIV infection. Why do you think? Why it happens? Why people will be at higher risk for HIV infection when they're poor? Do you have answer?
Maybe the countries with lower GNP per capita,
Mm-hmm.
maybe infrastructure and environment,
Mm-hmm.
environment poor.
Yeah, his answer is health-related environment or infrastructure is poor in the poorer countries. That's true. That may, in many ways, affect that people get more easily HIV infection. Is there any comments? The poorer the people, the more the risk of HIV infection. This sounds very natural, but when we start to think why, so answer is not very easy. Okay, so go to next slide. So this is relationship between Gini coefficient and HIV prevalence. The higher the Gini coefficient, the higher the HIV prevalence. So what is Gini coefficient? Shafika? Did you learn about Gini coefficient? Is there anyone who knows what is Gini coefficient? It's a very famous indicator related to the income inequality of the country. Okay, so assume one country, the income of everybody is the same. So if we add up of income of people one by one, so it increases this way, linearly, right? But assume that one country, most of people are very poor, almost no income. So income is only limited to very small number of people. So then we start up to add from poorer to wealthier. So at the beginning, accumulated income is not increase, only increase very slowly, right? Then when we reach to the very rich group, it suddenly go up. So in a country having income equality, the line is straight. But in a country, the income inequality is very large. It's shaped like this. So we can use this area as an indicator of income inequality. So it is Gini coefficient. You can check by internet. Okay. So this slide shows the higher the income inequality in the country, the higher the HIV prevalence. So there are many impoverished populations. So they are at higher risk for HIV infection. So this is a graph showing the male-female literacy gap and HIV prevalence. Very weak correlation. But if this is causal, what do you think? Why do you think this relationship exists? Male-female literacy gap. So I think you may know the answer. The female is generally in a disadvantaged situation in terms of education. If such a difference is large, so women may be in a disadvantaged situation in the society in terms of the income or job opportunity. So it may affect their risk for HIV infection. So this is more difficult. So this relationship between the urban male to female ratio and the HIV prevalence, the higher the ratio, the higher the HIV prevalence. So, if the city has more females than males, this ratio is greater. So why this relationship happens? Is there any one? How about your idea? So you can imagine the situation. This is urban, male-female ratio, not in the rural area. So, that means, in the country, in the cities with higher this ratio, has more immigrant, male population, visiting the city to find job. Okay, so this relates to HIV prevalence. Why it happens? The next slide, it is much easier, I think. This slide shows the year of education and condom use, men and women separately. So the higher the year of education, the higher the use of condom. So it is because of education. So they can understand the prevention message, so they can understand the importance of the message. So they will be wealthier to afford to buy condom. So they have more chance to use condom. Altogether, so can you imagine how these different factors are interrelated each other? So this is a concept of social vulnerability. So HIV epidemic is not a medical, not only a medical phenomenon, but very much a social phenomenon. So you can imagine how many social factors interrelated to produce social vulnerability to HIV infection. So this is a diagram I made. So it may not be perfect, but it will help your understanding. So this is poverty. There is a poverty, illiteracy, and gender inequality. If they are very poor, many people have to go commercial sex to survive. If they do not have enough literacy to get job, so they may find commercial sex as the only job opportunity. So if gender inequality, they have less choice, to survive. So if family is very poor, adult, in many cases migrate to the urban area. So then they will be disconnected from social network and social norm. So they may go to commercial sex, then the access to information or condom or STD treatment is limited. So they may engage in very high risk behavior. So if once they get infected, they become more poorer. So even their children becomes an AIDS orphan when their parents died, then put into the permanent poverty. So this is a cycle, creating socially the vulnerability to HIV infection.